Hello, it's David from David's Avery Electrical Services, and today I'm playing with a, well, I wouldn't call it a new toy because I've had it for about 18 months. It's a fairly unconvincing piece of test kit. I say unconvincing because in the 18 months I've had it, it's sat in a drawer and not done anything, and I was standing in CEF the other day thinking, I wonder who would buy one of those, when I remembered I'd already had. And so I fished it out of the drawer and we'll have a little play with it and see what it does. It's the TIS1040 Magic Wand. A rather curious bit of kit which might be useful for some people, but perhaps not for the average sparky out on the street. But let's have a play with this tonight and see what this thing does. Apologies for the rather messy desk here. This all looks very interesting. We're not actually going to be playing with a lot of this stuff. It's just part of my general crap that I haven't got time around to tidying up yet, like these bloody Mega Man bulbs that I must have a further look into to find out why they keep exploding in spectacular fashion. That's got to be something, some future video, I'm sure. But anyway, what we are playing with today, as I mentioned, is the TIS1040. Rather curious bit of kit available from the likes of CEF at around 50 quid, and billed as a tester of things like fuses, diodes, starters, etc. So we're going to have a little play with this. Now, like I said, I've had this for about 18 months, and I must admit I didn't go into CEF to actually buy it. I'm a bit of a salesman's dream sometimes, and I walked into CEF and there was this TIS salesman there with his desk full of new toys, and it was like Christmas, so I just spent money on all sorts of things that I probably didn't need to spend money on, including this thing, which then sat in a drawer and hasn't really been used much since. Now, we've got three buttons, for want of a better word, although that's not actually a button, one of which is simply a torch. If I shine that, well, you can see it's an orange light. Let's turn off the lamp there. There we go. We have an orange LED. Why orange? I'm not entirely sure. It does seem a bit of a strange colour to have for a torch. I'd have thought they'd used a white LED there, but okay, maybe they've got reasons for that. I don't know why. And of course, being just a standard sort of little LED there, it's fairly useless as a torch. If you were in the dark and you were using that as your only means of illumination, well, you're probably in a spot of trouble. The other two buttons we'll come to now. Like I say, this thing here isn't actually a push button itself. It's a thumb probe, if you like. It's and I'll show you what we can do with it. He says, looking around for something useful. How about fuses? It will allow you to do a basic continuity test, but a one-handed continuity test, or one probe continuity test, rather than getting out your continuity test with the two probes to check whether things like a fuse is good. You can simply put your thumb onto there, hold the other end of the item to be tested with your other hand, and as you can see, when I touch it, that fuse is good. So it's another fuse here. Oh, I'm sure this one's also good. Got millions of these 13 amp fuses. Jolly good. So, and all very basic. And it says it can do capacitors as well, although interestingly the manual makes no mention of capacitors, although the TIS website says it can do a capacitor check. Now, you've got to be a bit careful with capacitors, so I'm going to take a really small one here. What is this? 0.1 microfarad or something. And I presume, because I haven't seen it in the manual, that you test it in exactly the same way. You just oh no, I'm pressing the wrong button there, aren't I? Now, did you hear how that sort of tailed off there? That shows that the capacitor is charging, I guess. And that's a 0.1 mic capacitor. If you were going to try with something of a higher range, what have we got here? Then I'm not sure how well that will work. This is a 10 microfarad non-polarized electrolytic. Does that mean the capacitor's good? Maybe. We're certainly sending something through it. And maybe if I leave it long enough, it'll fully charge up and die off again. I don't know. Again, the manual doesn't sort of say what range of capacitors it tests, and it's not really that much of a capacitance test. You need to put it on a proper capacitance tester, a capacimeter, if you will, in order to find out whether your capacitor is actually anywhere near the value that it's supposed to be. So I'm not convinced that that's hugely useful to man nor beast, but okay. Now, we've got this other button here marked test. Is that everything we can do? I think with the continuity bit, okay, that's fine for what it is, and anything that will work with a continuity tester should work with that function. So it says, for example, it can test ballast as well. Well, that's just testing that the coil's intact, basically, which again you can do with a normal ohm meter or a normal continuity tester, buzzer continuity tester type thing. So okay, fair enough, fine, but it's not really doing anything at the moment that your multimeter doesn't already cover. So let's have a look at something that's perhaps a bit more useful, certainly a bit more different. This test button here, if I press it, actually sticks a high voltage on the top there, going to the back here, 3 kilovolts, which is interesting, at less than 7 microamps. Okay, fair enough. Now, what can we do with 3 kilowatts pumping out the end here? Well, supposedly we can use it to test lamps, and this thing is actually billed as a lamp tester. Okay, fair enough. So let's take a fluorescent job, and I'm going to press test. I'm not going to hold the test pins there, but I'm going to turn the light off. So we're having some near darkness. If I rub that up and down the tube there, you can see that the gas inside is indeed fluorescing. So that tells me that it's not a completely dead tube. Is the tube healthy in other respects? Well, again, we have the heating coils at the end there, which I can test as part of the continuity test function of the thing. Oh, and we can see that this heating coil has failed. So this is a bad tube. It's lost one of its heating coils. So yeah, okay, that's fairly useful. I'm not convinced that the material fluoresces is especially useful, because well, we'll have a look at that in a minute, but it does allow me to tell that this is a bad tube, but again, it's nothing I can really have checked without a normal buzzy continuity tester just on the heating coils there. Now, I do have some bad fluorescent lights here, these compact fluorescents. One of these is actually good, this one here, this Philips, this works. These other two do not. So can I use this to differentiate between a good CFL and a bad CFL? Well, if I hold down the test button, I can see, again, let's turn off the light. Every time I turn off the light, the bloody security camera infrared kicks in. I don't know if I think that's interfering with my camera. Again, I can check that it fluoresces. Great, okay. But let's have a look at these. Oops, knocking the camera out. Look at these bad ones. Well, they also fluoresce. So there's still some gas in there that's reacting to the high voltage buzzing around on the outside of this thing. Let's put it onto one of the contacts on the bottom, and you can see, well, on either contact it lights up. There's a bit of sparky action going on there as well. Let's see if I can get that on the camera. God knows if you can see that. So okay, I can see that works, but again, maybe that lights up, that doesn't, and that, well, they both light up. So it's not really differentiating between a good lamp and a bad lamp for me there, because they all react to it, and it's only when I plug these into a B22D lamp holder that I find that, well, they don't work at all, and that one works fine. Okay, now this is a bit more interesting. Fluorescent starters. This is where it starts to get a bit more useful, because I'm not aware, there may be an easy way of testing whether these things work or not. I'm not aware of an easy way. But again, if I use the test function, I don't have to touch the other end of that. I'm just going to touch the, God, can you even see that? If you look in the hole, yeah, I think the camera's picking up. You can see it's glowing blue in there. What have we got on this one? Nothing at all. That one, you can definitely see that one. That one's glowing orange, and this one is doing nothing at all. So I probably should have pulled these apart. Could have seen inside them better then, shouldn't we? So I can see that this one is a bad starter. That can go in the bin. whereas these do light up. So these are potentially working starters. That one won't open up at all, so we saw this one light up blue. I'll have to get the screwdriver out to open up, but I'm not going to bother. So potentially we've got 2 workers and 1 dead one there that I've already chucked in the bin. So okay, fair enough. If you've got a job then where you're maintaining a lot of fluorescent lights at a school, at an airport, at a shopping centre, something like that, then this could be a bit of a time saver if your lights are not the electronic ballast type and still use starters, because you can test the lamps, you can test the starters, and well, fine, off you go. Not so much use for just a jobbing electrician who isn't changing lots and lots of tubes en masse, and certainly it's not really telling me which of these bulbs are good and which are bad. Speaking of lamps, I should call them lamps, not bulbs. Anyway, obviously we've got some sun lamps here, and again, I can, if I put the tester on that, can you see inside there? Can you see that glowing in there? Which potentially indicates to me that that may be a good lamp. Certainly the little starting thing in there is glowing. Whether anything else happens in there, I don't know, because it won't excite the gases in there, so it may or may not be a good lamp. The thing inside glows. I'll have to fire it up to find out whether it actually works. I know for a fact it does because I have fired it up. These two I don't have any equipment for, so I can't run these, but these are new out of the box, and these are a bit interesting because if I do this one here, can you see, is the camera going to pick that up? The blue globe in the tube there, which I guess means it's alright. But interestingly, this one has no glow at all. However, it did yesterday when I was prattling about with it. So, and these are new out of the box, off the van. You know, as far as I know, they're good bulbs. So it's interesting that one gives me a bit of a glow and the other gives me nothing at all. I'm not really sure how this is helping to tell me whether therefore it's a good lamp or not. Again, the manual says that you should see that glow within the lamp, and unless one of my lamps has suddenly failed, I'm not so sure. It will do a voltage indicator as well, between, I think, was it 60 and 250 volts. So if we stick it on a supply, I'm just going to be a bit naughty here. Where's my screwdriver gone? Oh, there it is. I'm just going to push in the earth pin on this thing here, so that I can put my finger on the metal pin and stick it into the live, and you can hear it makes a noise and gives me an indication. So if you're sticking it into a live part, if you want to test whether a part is live or not, you again, you can do it with one hand just by holding down your thumb or finger onto the metal button there and pushing it onto the live part, and it should give you a voltage indication. Obviously you've still got to stick it on a proving unit or something, I guess, to make sure that that you know it's good and that it's not just reading dead because it is dead. And I think that's is that everything I've got to say about it, really? Yeah. So it's supposed to do things like metal halide lamps, mercury lamps as well. I don't have any of those to hand. I've only got the Son ones, and we're having mixed success with testing those. The fluorescents, okay, the tubes, it's quite good for testing on. The CFLs, it's not really telling me that these two ain't going to work. Quite the opposite. In fact, it makes it look like it will. And then that one's okay, because they all exhibit the same sort of results. Good for testing starters, I'll give it that. I've not seen anything else that tests starters. There may be something out there, but I don't mess about with enough starters to worry about it. So an interesting bit of kit, but is it something that's of particular use to you out in the field? Well, I'd say perhaps not. And like I say, this one's been sat in a drawer for 18 months, and it's sat in a drawer full of fluorescent bulbs. Actually, I thought, well, I keep calling them bulbs. I thought, well, I'll use them for testing fluorescent lamps, and you know what? I just haven't. What happens if we stick it on one of these shit Modo things? An LED lamp. Let's stick some kilovolts into these bastards. It gives me a glow. Well, that one does anyway. That one doesn't, because it's probably another dead one. Goodness knows, I must have a closer look at those Modo lamps. So yeah, there we go. I wonder, yeah, one thing I'm probably going to have to do on the video to take one for the team, I suspect if anybody gets one of these, it's going to go straight onto the apprentice, and so they get zapped. So what does it feel like if you actually stick 3 kilovolts at that kind of current level into you? Oh, Gordon Bennett. Oh, doesn't hurt at all. Well, there you go. There you go. You can't even use it to fry your apprentice with. Oh well, never mind. So there, that's it. The TIS1040 lamp tester, as they call it. So there, lamp tester, which doesn't give you very conclusive results on testing your lamps. Thanks for watching. Wait, I've just found one more use for it. I've got a drawer of cold cathode fluorescent tubes here, cold cathode fluorescent lights, these really thin cathode tubes, which are all a rage for computer modders back in the early noughties, before LEDs came along and spoiled everything. And well, they're all white to look at them, but watch what happens if I stick my doodad next to them. I can tell from their aglowness whether they're white, green, red, yellow, blue, whatever. There you go. That's a use that no one else in the world will have for them, because these things are obsolete now and LEDs are taken over. But if you've got something, it probably works for neon tubes as well. If you've got something where you want to know what the colour of the thing is, well, that's another string to its bow.